Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, record. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
You're watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. We are into the second hour and final one of this particular show. It runs every Monday. We start at 7 to 9, having a conversation with Uganda. And we have these conversations, as I tell you, to create a better Uganda, not only for us, but also for the generations to come. This Uganda has been here for a long time, and it's always us who outgrow it or outlive it. But Uganda will always stay here. We're still talking about Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is remanded right now in Luzira, and he's facing cases in the General Court Martial. He'll be arraigned against this court tomorrow morning. He'll be there for his second hearing. And of course, his lead counsel, that is Martha Karua, the former Minister of Justice in Kenya, has been denied certification to temporarily litigate in Uganda. What does this mean for Dr. Besigye, but also for the cases that have been raised against him? Let me come to you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno, on this particular issue. What do you think about Martha Karua's denial to litigate and represent Dr. Besigye here?
I said it was shameful. I feel embarrassed, and for Museveni, who used Nairobi as a base with the Mois of this world, with their foreign imperialist friends, using Kenya, and they gave them everything against Ugandans in order to make them amplify like this. It is cheek of him to treat Kenya and Kenyan soil and Kenyans like that today as a leader. In any case, actually, Martha could easily, had it been a normal democratic process, could easily have been the current vice president of Kenya, in fact, deputy president of Kenya. In others, Martha Karua is possibly a future president of Kenya, and Martha Karua, therefore, is also potentially a future president of East African Federation, unless Mr. Museveni wants East African Federation for either him or nobody else, kind of stuff. So that sort of is the kind of stuff that we're talking about, as I was saying. So it's actually shameful, whatever has happened. And the arguments given, including that is because it's political. But I guess Besigye's thing is criminal political anyway. What is it? It's a political matter. It's a political nonsense. You know, the diplomatic thing is all politics too. So it's extraordinary. If I was actually advising Mr. Museveni, I would have said, you know, who in these new heavens of theirs from the bushes these days advises the man? But I know we had some private conversations much earlier that maybe the man is possibly in a hostage in his own, house of doubt. That in a particular else, it would be a common sense thing. I would say, Comrade Kaguta, around the ready, the guard, the thinger. After all, so actually, I wouldn't advise that you deny her. I think you're making it you're making it actually much more embarrassing for yourselves. But all of us are watching. But I think Charles is right that in a particular way that if Ugandans were sufficiently organized and mobilized, that Ugandans should be in the streets, because not about Kizza Besigye, but really because of these excesses in terms of impunity, and that would be the right thing to do. But on that note, I want to say that this morning I saw a statement written where opposition political parties signed in solidarity with Kizza Besigye. And I was very disappointed. This is breaking news, that I did not see UPC there. I did not see DP there, but I don't speak for DP. I was just concerned that I saw Robert there, Robert Chagulanyi, so it has Lukwago as the key, more important people, and David Lewis Rubonja, amongst, including John Ken and others, representatives of other political parties in solidarity. I wasn't contacted. And of course these guys were talking low. I am the president of Uganda People's Congress, and notwithstanding whatever is being held by the difficulties in court, I think the lawyers are still so much overwhelmed in the high courts. That's why they have to delegate Besigye's case maybe to the court martial. Otherwise, I should really be the president of Uganda People's Congress. So leaders of the other political parties in the country should know that I'm actually the president of Uganda People's Congress. In the even unlikely event that they don't consider me because I've not been declared and the matter is in court, they should be going to Peter Walubiri, who technically should be in my absence, or in the absence of resolution of this matter, would be officially the leader of UPC, who takes over from the Olara leadership, because Jim McKenna is not. Now, so really, did they go to Walubiri? If they didn't go to Walubiri, as I said, they should be approaching me. And I'm saying that you guys, I really wanted to have put my name and signature in solidarity with Kizza Besigye as a matter of principle. So that was, I think, an omission. But whatever the case, I don't know whatever the plan was, but that needed to have happened that way. So I have argued, I think, while Charles was away in other networks, that I don't think that possibly as political parties we've been having conversations sufficiently coherently together to address issues not all about Kizza Besigye, but some of these big things that we should be sharing and coming together. And so that's why I was actually quite impressed that for the Kenyans actually to say they'll be coming in solidarity, that is how you deal with the dictatorships.
There are even protests in Kenya.
Indeed, and impunity. So I would have expected younger people to do these things, students in universities and colleges to be able to do it. They haven't done it. But that is maybe the second part of our conversation. But that said, we've already pronounced myself on this before, that no, Besigye was kidnapped from Kenya, and he should not have been kidnapped from Kenya. Whatever offenses Charles while you're away, that Besigye should have been tried in Kenya, whatever else had happened. And if he was found wanting, that Ugandan authorities needed to have gone through the legal processes to seek for him to be extradited back to Uganda, and that when in the event that happened, he would really already have gone through the legal process in Kenya, judicial process in Kenya, and either through a court or a magistrate's court, and that when basically comes to Uganda, comes basically to a civilian court, not this military thing. But it's happening like this because of the military regime. But do you know what, in 30 seconds, there is something that I know we're going to be discussing, but no, there is actually an interesting hope on this continent that actually shame on Mr. Museveni and this NRA who broke our people's necks 40 years ago wanting to seek to bring democracy. East Africa, that is now in charge, and his deputy is now William Ruto, Shame on them. Is now such a shambolic space that you ask Tanzania, do you ask Congo to look up to these people? In Southern Africa, fantastic news happened the other day when in Botswana we had a massive election in which an incumbent political party was convincingly defeated in a free and fair multi-party elections. Cross the bridge and go down there, down further south, toward the west of the Southern Africa, and Namibia elects the first female president. Fantastic news on this African continent. These things are actually possible. Granted, that is a governing SWAPO, but granted, people say that the possibility of opposition, but granted their majority dropped, and granted you can see a sense of humility, including recognition that yes, people are speaking, and I think those democracies are going to remain stable, whatever happens. If the governing political parties there don't do whatever they're supposed to do, things are going to change. And then you go to Ghana, and I've told this program, I think the early time when I was here, among the first time I was a guest, I know, Charles, the election that broke and restabilized Ghana was one in which the incumbent, and the incumbent did not want to let go. There was an impasse between two political parties, everybody saying that they won. It is believed and is true that the security services, heads of services, called the two guys in their rooms. I think the head of the military, head of the police, head of the intelligence, three heads, called these guys in the room and said, you guys, between the two of you guys, you know who won. You know who won. That's about a party who's close to those sources. And a security-related person told me this in London around that time. It's about 15 so years. You know who won. And you guys, we will not decide for you, but we shall defend the people of Ghana. And whatever position we take will not be military, but you know who won. You need to go to the next room and come. These guys came back, and it was, since then, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. You know what I'm saying? Ghana is now onto the next phase, meaning that you can lose elections as a former president and concede. Yes. And you can go through election and the incumbent political party does that and you concede. Yeah. And what a beautiful thing it is, citizens, that you come and you even come, yes, and shake hands. And you know what happens with the ruling party candidate? He concedes before the electoral commission said, and you know what he says? He says, Ugandans, by this you guys, these things are sweet. You might say it's Ochieno's problem. No, Ochieno Nagongera is fine, by the way. But look, in the interest of stability for our country, and to bring come and all this kind of thing, he had to declare it early because already there are some skirmishes. Because your followers, some of your followers will want to do funny things. Yeah. That's why it's important for political leaders like ourselves, both in opposition and in government, to take responsibility. Okay. I have told people, no, I need to say this. I've told people that I don't want any follower of Ochieno to break anybody's neck, to abuse anybody, in the name of Ochieno, in the name of what I represent. But we must be continue to seek the truth. That is what leaders need to do in political parties, in oppositions, and particularly people with the biggest burden who have the trust of the state and therefore the forces of coercion in their hands to use it the way God gave them to deliver for peoples rather than for their families and families.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Joseph Ochieno. Let's move on to another issue, and I'm going to start with you, sir. We have a new political alliance in town, the Democratic Alliance. The vision bearer, that is Honorable Mpuga, former leader of opposition, and he says that there has been a void in the opposition of this country. And he comes, and the Democratic Alliance, DA, they come to create a solution for this particular issue and challenge in the country. First, what do you think about DA, Democratic Alliance?
You couldn't even allow me to breathe. I thought I'd made a passionate submission. Now I was boasting that now I need to breathe for 30 seconds because it had gone inside me. Man, this Africa sometimes, African issues make me sick. But I've been suffering with this thing.
You have been.
Since nearly after I'd been born, since around, I've been suffering with this African. So they're really, really irritating. So much as I was saying that with the fervor of what is saying that is possible in Ghana, and that is always my argument. So I'm answering you.
Yes.
Most of the early 90s, I was campaigning against this NRA that we need to return this country to multipartyism so that we able, all of us to be together. And of course, many people thought it was a gift from Luero. Luero was like some Jesus from the Middle East. Okay. At the same time, we're campaigning, Charles, against dictatorship in West Africa at the time. I'm giving you my CV. And at the time, dictatorships around the Rawlings, of course, the crude dictatorship, and the Abachas in Nigeria, across the continent. And
Yes,
we same. And a Nigerian friend, one of the Nigerian friends who was an assistant, told me once upon a time, came to my desk and said, Joseph, I saw you yesterday because I demonstrated, I think I was one of the leaders of the demonstration against Shell, over Shell's things in Ogoni. In fact, one that led to the killing of Ken Saro-Wiwa. This may be a bit of an old story, you may not know, but I think young Ugandans and environmentalists need to know. So, killed by the Abacha regime. And so this guy said, I saw you in a demonstration. And it was about Nigeria. So this guy was finding it funny that me, a whole Joseph Ochieno officer tied, his boss, was in a street demonstration about this thing. So he thought I was wasting time. So Africans, you guys wake up. Now, his colleague, who's now that was an executive, who was basically my assistant, one of my assistants, said, bro, he used to call me bro. He said, it's impossible for civilians to rule Nigeria. So this guy had genuinely believed that it was impossible for a civilian to govern Nigeria, and it was impossible for democracy to take hold in Nigeria. This is hardly 25 years ago. And he was saying the military will have to continue, so they would rather just have bodies. And I argued with this guy, simply said no. From the time of granted Obasanjo came, and we have the Nigeria of today, notwithstanding the continued corruption and impunity and things like that. But I hope Nigeria does not turn, because this thing of Kizza Besigye in Kampala is impossible to happen in Nigeria. But they both their own big issues. And Ghana has moved on. I'm answering you, these things are possible across the continent. So look, coming back here, political parties, Mpuga, what is the new thing that Mpuga is specially bringing that does not exist in opposition? My argument is this, and has always been, and I'll make it brief, that, look, when Museveni came, pushed by foreign interests to serve their interests in this country and this region, and that's the important thing, and he continues to do that, Ugandans blindly backed this guy and followed him. Ugandans, particularly the Democratic Party, backed this guy and followed him. The traditional political parties with values, foundations, roots, natural constituents, and ideology, UPC and DP, had then became the victims, parties got lost, and Museveni ran with it. Fast forward to where we are at the moment. Once Museveni smashed the UPC base in the north, in the east, in the west, and Kole, Kigezi, and Bunyoro, and particularly Bunyoro and part of Toro, people went sick and people lost their heads. From the time of the return to multipartyism, I'm going to turn this short and maybe come back to it. Yes, from the time to return to multipartyism, I think we've lost faces. The one thing that I've, quote, accused Kizza Besigye of in a good way has been that I've always argued, Charles, that because of political parties and their formations and what they should be as vehicles for these, and that they should be ideologically rooted and around social grievances and things like that, that when Besigye, after the demonization of political parties, in this case UPC and DP, which were established political parties and vehicles, in any case, both the left-leaning political party, UPC, and the right-leaning political party, DP. Yes. Traditionally, in terms of sense of stability, nation-states should really not have more than 3 strong political parties, based on the global concept of these things, And so that was a lost opportunity. UPM coming up in 1980 could easily have been now the third force, you can call it as that, and it could have grown into that kind of countering of balancing of that, whatever the case. They present themselves, of course, they would possibly have been eating, they would have eaten some of our left-leaning side, if they genuinely were left-leaning political, of course they're not, kind of stuff. So we lost that. When we're pushing for return to multipartyism, when Besigye was leaving NRA, my suggestion is that Besigye should have joined one of the 2 political parties. I know his and his family's views on UPC, so they may not necessarily have joined us, and they would not have faulted him, But had they joined DP, and we together built, in any case, UPC and DP were working reasonably together to push for return to pro-multipartyism, I think we would be better. And maybe we would already have gotten rid of Mr. Museveni's dictatorship democratically.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts. Somehow, FDC was founded, and that in itself led to the fragmentation of political parties. Now, of course, some people hearing me will tell me, oh, but all the political parties, they're old, which is simplistic conversation, which is not intellectually driven at all, and sometimes emotive. Oh, the UPC was the North and the Protestant, DP was Uganda and Catholic, whatever, both of which are really not true, although DP was found around Catholic grievances in Uganda.
Oh, partly true, yeah.
Catholic grievance around Uganda, but so by and large you could argue that, but no, but now doesn't read it from that point of political.
Okay, so you're meaning that most of the political alliances or parties that are birthed in this country are not birthed from ideology, but rather from sentiment?
In part, I am saying that, but not particularly. What I'm trying to build is that cumulatively, basically founds a political party. UPC had a base, DP had a base. Then much more recently, Mugisha Muntu comes up, forms his own political party. Chagulanyi critically comes and takes a mass, almost a youth movement, kind of a social base, of grievances of young people, and successfully almost builds, particularly because the People Power movement came out as something that all of us sort of supported initially. And we really thought that would have been a very good foundation for breaking NRA before we then go ahead and reconstitute ourselves in political parties. What has now happened is that we've now ended up with, 5 political parties? From ANT to NUP to FDC to PPP, before you then go to UPC, DP, and NRA.
CP.
Now, and then you continue to CP, and JEMA might even complain because they've got a seat in parliament. So that now there's about 8-9 political organizations. And then when you go into the details, what do they, one, represent, number one? Number two, really amongst them, who of them have got leadership that are capable of providing an emotive drive to guide all of us or to guide this, the move against NRM? Okay. It's neither here nor there.
Let's first leave it there because you ask very good, important questions. Let's first leave our viewers pondering on those 2 questions that have been raised by him. Let me come to you as we continue with the conversation, Mr. Charles. You have been an ardent critic of the opposition, really, and you also sense, according to some of the submissions you have made here, that there is a void in the opposition of this country, sir. My question to you is the Democratic Alliance by Honorable Mpuga a new solution that can really do something different from what the opposition has been doing wrong, or what the opposition has really not done in their time? What do you think?
In principle, since I'm pro-democracy, in principle, I have no issues with any group establishing a political party, as long as they follow the law and the criteria in place. So for the Mpuga group to establish a political party, I have no issues with that. The challenge we have as a country is that parties have been hijacked by individuals for selfish reasons.
Yes.
So political parties, including NRM, are like shops, sole proprietorship shops. Huh? You want, in case you've not left the money on Kameza, your wife can pick sugar and put in tea for kids. That is how parties are being run in Uganda today.
Funny.
So they are not serious political business. And me, that is why my focus has always been on the people, the Ugandans themselves, because the true opposition is the citizens, not these entities which are just like shops.
Yes, sir.
However, if you are to also focus on the next 10 years, Our political stage, of course, is going to be different. I highly doubt that 10 years from 2026, I highly doubt that Museveni will still be dominating the political terrain in the country. It is very unlikely. So these political organizations could help groom the future leaders, not people who, these ones, the current ones. No, me, I have no hope in the current people because they are looking for money.
I am not. I am not. Put a disclaimer, please.
But they could groom future leaders.
What kind of future leaders are they grooming for us? Can we even trust them with the future leaders of this land? Can we? And I want you also to comment on the group itself, that
Let me give you an
Alliance.
example.
Because these people have been in various
I was,
formations.
when I was still a very young boy in Imbarara, I was on, I used to rub shoulders with the Francis Mwijuches, the current deputy speaker, and so many young people. But because they got involved in political parties, they were groomed into leaders of today. So if you don't go through a certain entity and you have no mentors, then you will not understand how to manage a country.
Oh, okay.
So it is very important.
You need a bit of orientation.
Yes, because there are lots of things that you go through in a political organization that helps you to lead a country. So it is very important for some of these political parties. But now Mpuga as an individual has issues of credibility. You know, the issue of 500 million has refused totally to go off his face. It is a rotten egg on his face, and it's not going away. If Mpuga had good strategists, they would have advised him not to be on the front line, but rather to act from the background. So we would have seen new faces on the front of this political formation. But in actual sense, it would have been the Mpugas in the background until after some years when his reputation has been reoriented. But as we talk today, I was coming and guys were arguing here in Kampala about the same issue of Mpuga.
The 500 million.
The 500 million. And people are still bitter.
Well, okay, just to continue on that, I want, because I'm going to ask you this in the same line. When you look at the other people around Mpuga, they are also been marred with a lot of accusations. The latest one being that group, the DP bloc, received money from Mr. Museveni and State House. It is alleged that they received 3.8 billion shillings, that's around $1 million. And all of them received money as those members. But also comment on them being political nomads. I have seen them in the Holy Alliance, the most recent. There's the the Democratic Alliance. They were in People Power. They created the DP bloc. And that's why I was asking you earlier that can we even trust these people to groom us leaders? Are these people serious about changing Uganda in your regard?
No. They are not creating political formations to remove President Museveni. I have told you, it is a political entrepreneurship. If you're a smart businessman, you design a deal and get something out of it, and you move on. So it's not real about removing Museveni. No, the people who are serious at wanting Museveni gone are dealing directly with Ugandans, and they understand the sentiments of Ugandans. You don't be a leader and you're just listening to yourself. You should be able to listen to what people are saying. They could be wrong, but if they are the majority, you go by that. So if Ugandans are saying, look, this is the direction we want, and you're insisting you're going in an opposite direction, then you're serving your own personal interests. So some of these political actors are not really looking at removing Museveni. They are surviving for tomorrow. And I think in their calculation, if I may try to interpret their actions, is that should there be some form of earthquake and Museveni is gone,
Accidental collapse.
then they should also be on the stage where they can gather as actors and look at the transition together. But they are not working towards really removing Museveni. People who want to remove Museveni should be mobilizing Ugandans, not mobilizing themselves. They should be mobilizing Ugandans, educating Ugandans. Besigye did a wonderful job, by the way. You see, the current descent in the country is as a result to Besigye's consistent activism from 2000. People have become aware. Initially, it was as if we didn't understand what was happening. But today, there is a rise in the political awareness. So the country, as Uganda, and most Ugandans, especially those in urban areas, can ably interpret some of the political games that are happening. So if you want to really change the way, the outlook of the country, then you must be able to mobilize Ugandans. You don't have to focus on mobilizing yourselves.
Maybe lastly, as we continue, some people believe or think that Chagulanyi's leadership has really not been impactful, or there's something missing in his leadership. That even how he handled the Mpuga situation was a bit lacking, because all this stems from the 500 million, and now we are seeing a division in a party. And of course, you can say Mpuga was the deputy president of Uganda region. That means he had a bit of support and strength that he was bringing to that political party. What do you think about, or comment on how Chagulanyi has really run NUP, that also as a leader of opposition in his first term? Has he handled it effectively?
My position on Bobi Wine has always been consistent and very clear. I see Bobi Wine as somebody, as a messenger who was sent by God to alert Museveni for redemption. There was that guy in the Bible.
Who came, was it Jonah?
So by conceptualizing the entire Bobi Wine thing, Museveni should have redeemed himself by now.
It was a warning.
It was a warning. And that is where Chagulanyi's role ended. I don't know whether you get it.
You're talking about the generational leader, according to some people.
Chagulanyi's role ended there. he delivered the message. So if Museveni not was unable to understand that,
Yes.
then it is his problem. Now, it is also faulty to blame Bobi Wine as a leader, because he was never a leader anyway. And he can't be. His role was to deliver a message. Now, when he was gagged by some of these actors into getting a political party formation, that's where problems started. Because first of all, they fraudulently acquired that organization. That was the genesis of all these
meaning
problems.
National Unity Platform?
Yes. It was a fraudulent manner. In fact, they should be in a Ruzira. If we were in a sane democracy, they should have been in a Ruzira. By now, those guys leading NOP. But you know, it is Uganda. That's how things happen. So Kyagulanyi has no more authority to even criticize Mpuuga. He does not have any more authority to even talk about corruption.
Why? Has he been corrupt?
If
before?
today we decided to order an audit of NOP as a country, you would be shocked. Because decision making is in the bedroom, not in the boardroom. And that is a problem for multipartyism. And it is not only restricted to Bobi Wine, even some of these other parties. That's how things are being done.
One man runs the show.
Yes. He consults the wife, and if the wife is angry and demands the sacking of the Secretary General, they will do it.
It's being you're now exaggerating, sir.
But hasn't it happened in NRM? Unless you were just born today. How did Mbabazi get out of NRM? So these things, if we are to reorganize ourselves as a country, we should not really rely so much on political parties. Okay. Because they consume a lot of our time, and we don't have that energy.
All right.
So our time as Ugandans should be on how do we reform governance of the country.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. You're going to give me how the opposition, because it feels like now the opposition has become ceremonial, or they have become comfortable being opposition. It's like now it's their new job to be opposition. So how best can the opposition work around this, especially as we're coming into the political season? Sir, I want you to also comment on the issue of Bobi Wine, the quality of leadership of this particular individual, but also Buganda, because NUP has had a stronghold in Buganda. The controversy and the division is happening in Buganda. Isn't this really undermining the opposition forces in the country, especially those who are leading opposition now?
You're being very unfair to me because, you know, I'm a slightly an older man now, so I sort of lose memory. So when you ask me too many questions, and then particularly you cut me in the middle, and the early point I was making earlier, I was doing it with the gentility of maturity. So I keep on going, you know, you see. So apologies to some of your viewers that Ochieno might be going zigzag. But at my stage now,
but they understand that you are painting a picture
at my
for
stage,
us.
we sometimes talk, you know, in parables, and it can be a bit boring, I understand, but guys should bear with us. The truth is that if you get it from the beginning to the end,
exactly.
you'll really get it. But in any case, actually, if I fail to respond to those ones, you need to remind me because they're important questions. I just want to build on to what I was saying earlier because it will really link up to what Charles is saying. But Charles, I think I'll start by fundamentally holding a very strong opposing view, and perhaps where you refer to political parties as being part of the problem, and for you as a scholar of global international relations, you present basically the challenge that NRA created by demonizing and killing political parties. And you being the generation of Francis and of Taebwa, and you are really the critical leaders that people like myself should be handing over to. It's actually genuine worrying, because if you guys don't get it right, it's going to be a big challenge to these guys. Look, NRA, with the backing of foreign forces, came in to take over this country. And to take over this country, they had to dismantle the political and social systems in Uganda. And to do so, they had to target an agent, an element called UPC, or the governing political party, to the extent that sometimes, Edgar, can you imagine, Ugandans forget that actually the government overthrown in 1985 was not a body of a Kokoro government.
Yes.
This is a government elected by the majority of Ugandans across the Republic of Uganda, except in Buganda, where we had one parliamentary seat, massively supported across the country. And in any case, that's what democracy is all about. And so it was the people's government that was usurped, rather than a Milton Obote man of a Kokoro, because I never knew a Kokoro, and I never knew Lango, kind of stuff. And whatever was usurped was not only power, but also the privileges of all the citizens, including the other poor people I found in Zombo, extremely poor in parts of West Nile, as a result of that. Now, political parties were demonized, broken, and killed. UPC was targeted, broken, they attempted to kill because we had an idea we can't die. They killed our leaders, exiled them, neutralized them. DP sold itself and the heart to Mr. Museveni's NRA in the case of this brutality kind of stuff. It took Semugeri 10 years to wake up, 1995. I hosted Paul Semugeri in London in 1995 when he was preparing to resign from NRA. Museveni uses him, first of all, as the national policeman, as the Minister for Internal Affairs, to do for him the dirty jobs, including the setting up of RCs, meaning the systems basically to perfect the mess in which we are struggling to get out of. And then after that, he appoints him a foreign minister and then makes him official diplomat to sell NRA abroad. That thing comes to perfection. I was actually being reluctant, I've said this before, and I even told Semugeri, I was being hesitant hosting him. And the board instructed me that I must host him, because now that's to see the power of wisdom and everything. It made absolute sense. And at the time, DP had very minimal infrastructure in the UK. UPC was then the more organized opposition down there. And we did together, including that's how people like Mukako and others eventually came together and get to know them. But what was happening then was, we're praising what is happening in Botswana and Ghana and particularly Namibia and all these other democracies, But that is what was killed, the system that was killed. Now, Charles, what we are trying to do is to eventually return to that. Now, the vehicles that will take us to there must be political parties, Now, my point is political parties were demonized and broken. And I was saying earlier, what happened when NRA came and banned political parties and ruled for 20 years, lest we forget? This institution became very weak, localized. But something important that links to the legitimate point you made was that politics was driven by personal merit, me, myself, and I. So it's actually not surprising, fast forward, that when the reemergence of political pluralism came with the test of Semugeri in 1996 that we supported, and then, of course, then the return to multipartyism, by then FDC was already there. But my point was that perhaps, and this is made lamentation, I'm not blaming Besigye, that perhaps if they said, look, this NRA vehicle was wrong, let's return to where we were as a country. Some of these guys, I think, didn't want to show that they actually made a mistake. They'd been pushed like zombies to a particular thing. So they wanted to stick and then to justify their going. And I can see some people who were formerly in NRA, some of them still struggle with that. But many recognize that they made mistakes, in that sense. But regardless of that, political parties that existed at the time that had been broken, nobody has gone back to critique this political party to say whether or not the accusations and all these things were true. Now, the battling now creating new formations, unfortunately, because of the new culture, away from values of ideology, but rather now about me, myself, and I. Political parties now emerge around individualism, that my brother is saying. Yes. So it's not surprising that Mr. Museveni now simply say, which one do you want? Which one do you want? How much do you want?
And, is it,
how much do you want?
So aren't they really dividing the population?
No, of course
now?
they are. No, of course they are. That's the point. I'm just contextualizing it, and I'm not really categorizing, nor am I blaming anything. I'm just giving an analytical context within which we are. So for that reason, it's not surprising. So that in every political organization, with the exception of A&T, for the moment, all of them, have got issues, including my own.
Yes.
And I may say so, if I may say so, just within the last 1 week, and this is really for the record, I have, because that's my job, and my job to do it for Milton Obote, my job to do it for this country. And every time I say Milton Obote, people stand up. No, for the values of the founding principles of this country, people who definitely try to do it right for our children. Were they saints? No. My job is to try and do it right, and particularly to the younger Ugandans, particularly your generation. Look, I have known 2 cases in UPC in the last 1 week where people have told me how certain individuals using UPC as a vehicle, thankfully not in the mainstream people that are using UPC as a vehicle, are being pushed for money. I know an individual who told me that a particular individual whom we know is associated with NRA told somebody, you can go and stand in that thing and maybe, you'll get money. And I have been also told within the last 1 week, factually, by somebody who went as a candidate, wanted to become a parliamentary candidate, and somebody within UPC told them that, well, we cannot support them, maybe might consider NRA. So these things I'm fighting for is true. And what I'm fighting for, if anybody thinks about UPC, no. We are fighting to reclaim that space in which we have institutional structures, both political, social, cultural, and indeed political, meaning public institutions, once again, so that our polity, including you, then you get your job on merit. Then your child eventually, when you have your children, go to school and then become class prefects on merit, rather than on who has sold which seats and whose fathers come. So those really so personal merit death is the problem. So political parties, just like all Ugandans, are victims. And my challenge is, what is it that we can do amidst this madness? And that's why I have stuck with my Uganda People's Congress, because values and ideologies don't die. And I've said that the founding values of 1952 of Uganda National Congress is much more urgently required today in light of what has happened and is happening in Syria, and in light of the landslides and the mess in the eastern Kasese, and in light of what I saw in West Nile, and in the light of what's happening in South Sudan. That is actually urgent that the values that these founding parents did becomes a reality, particularly amongst the young Africans. How we do it is neither here nor there. I am committed, and that's why I was putting the disclaimer earlier, that no, those of us representing different political formation, people have the information. We need to urgently have a conversation where we're able to focus on Uganda. And granted, agree to disagree that we have our own different political organizations, but to do what politically is right, and that is to refocus on Uganda. Now, to refocus on Uganda, I'm trying to persuade people to move away from their selfish interests to their briefcase monies, to their dubious things in State House, which in any case happens to be our public monies anyway. We need to do, that is what we need to break. Now, linked with that, this business of grooming young people. At the moment, it's culturally completely absent. The majority of the young people, including those I know who use UPC as a vehicle, some of them actually quite young people, but they're young people being used by people of my generation, and with Mr. Museveni to make money, so they're not doing politics. The only good thing is that I kind of boast about this. If you pick 100 young people in this country, mixed from political parties and organizations, you'll find that predominantly those in UPC will understand politics, systems and organization mobilization, because by and large we actually do quite well on that. My worry is that now, because of the mess in which we have, is sinking us. So grooming of leaders, they should naturally come through political party structures. They should naturally come from schools and colleges and universities. They should naturally go through the students' unions and the NUSUs and the current one, which is NRA, broke, whatever reasons, whatever kind of stuff. They should naturally be from responsible leaders like myself and yourselves. For me, wherever I go, at every event that I go, I create leaders. And they don't have to be UPCs. Any place, including the restaurant where I was having a meeting this afternoon, the 3 guys who served, I engaged them. And I engaged them through waking them up, but giving them sense of direction kind of stuff. Okay. It's a culture that we need to do, and we need to do generally. But now for the grooming thing, people are grooming experts in maintaining them, just like Museveni now is surrounded by people who are there to keep him going rather than to build leaders
All
for the future. But find historical struggles. The historical struggles did not start with Besigye, but Besigye did a fantastic thing post the post the return to pluralism, because it was then very popular, because it was seen as a vehicle. The worrying thing was that at the time, Museveni had created not only this personal merit thing, but the idea that this country cannot be ruled by a civilian. And many people, including some of my people in UPC, went there because Besigye was alleged a soldier. Again, these are things that we need to dismantle. No, the struggle against dictatorship in this country started on July 27th, 1985, when DP and NRA and a particular section of particular communities overthrew the democratic elected government. From 1986 January, Ochieno, I put up my hand, I said no to this bunch of criminals who came from the bushes, and I have opposed them today. We did that, and these people joined us 10, 20 years later, and we built it together. So we must appreciate records systematically going forward. My problem is that we've now dismantled, everybody wants little bits. I'm saying, let's do these things much more together, so that we're able to eventually find a situation in which we're discussing a post-Museveni Uganda, where we don't drop him and them on Lake Victoria, but where we create possibilities in which there's a new emergence of Uganda, which is democratic, open, and that politics and governing politics is based on values, ideologies, party manifestos, rather than manifestos of individuals and their wives made in their bedrooms.
All right, thank you. Let me come to you, Charles. How do we achieve the unity that he has mentioned about, especially when we are entering such a season and it looks like the position is at its worst? And one would say it looks like a clear game for Mr. Museveni to win, especially in 2026. What do we do next, sir?
We need, I was very attracted to the people power movement. It was a nice concept. Then somehow it was sold off.
Yeah, many of us were here.
We need a dominant group to emerge and prevail over the current political environment. And that group should have certain values. It is the only way that such a group would command sanity. And if such a group, for instance, took charge of the country and then reorganized it, that is the only way we can get back together as citizens. Because right now, it is impossible with the actors that we have. All actors, almost 90%, are corrupt. So you can't expect much from them, really. Both ruling and opposition. You cannot expect anything reasonable from them. So we need a new citizen-led formation.
Yes.
In some kind of a revolution that can trigger sanity. Then with a program, of course, of reconciliation, because we need to reconcile as Ugandans. We look at ourselves suspiciously today. We wish each other terrible things. Now, for us to move forward, we need to come together. You've seen Mao's program, his proposals. I was one of the people that contributed to those proposals. Yes. But the guys fighting him are not even in opposition. They are NRM. It is very shocking. The man is proposing to you that, look, let us have a thinking of forgiving you for the evils you've committed. And you are saying, look,
What are you talking
I
about?
don't want to listen to that. It's as if some of these guys
They're in denial.
have run crazy. They are putting the lives of their children at stake. Unless they all run into exile. If there is no
Well, they
reconciliation,
believe you can never take them out, really. Because if someone believes that way, that's why they will
these
do
guys who have fallen have been more powerful than Museveni. So powerful, by the way, that they could even shake the West. So don't call them jokers. Mubarak, Gaddafi, Bashir, Assad.
Yes.
Those were serious guys. Saddam Hussein. Where are they?
No, but I think Edgar is also,
As you give us
Edgar is
your-
also
as
saying,
you give us
no,
your
no, but
partition,
Edgar is also
yeah.
saying that maybe, you see how he abused me earlier, that for us we were cowards. So maybe in Uganda we don't have the strong kind of organized, strong opposition like those ones. Okay, please comment
So,
on that.
Because if someone
Okay,
is
comment
saying
on that.
well,
Let me tell
if you don't want to forgive us, don't forgive us.
Let
That
me
means
tell
there's,
you.
there's a place they're speaking from.
Me, I interact with people. And I'm not talking of the corporates like Ochieno here. Me, I
I'm not a
interact
corp-
with the
I'm not
people on the
I'm not a
ground.
corporate.
You understand? The day they will rise up, no military will stop them.
Give us your parting shots, sir. Your last remarks.
Well, we are heading into an election year. I don't know whether you guys have started planning for your primaries in UPC.
I told them I'm in court. You know, talk to your land friends to release my leadership. You know, and that's the official.
No,
and on a serious note. So
no, you should now lobby.
Lobby
You see, you cannot command. You just have to learn.
lobby
to
who?
You lobby the Chief Justice, and your thing will.
How? What is the best way to get to the
Is that
Chief
how they
Justice?
get justice these days? Thank you so much. Give us your parting shots, sir, as we come to the end of the
You know,
conversation.
whatever happens, actually, one, I think Ugandans should stop looking at the calendar for 2026. Ugandans should look at the future. Really, really future in honesty. And number two, in terms of the broader context of political formations as it's related to new, I think Ugandans need to review what I said earlier, that we need to be looking back to how we found ourselves here. And how we found ourselves here must take us back to the formations around Kizza Besige's, the ban on political parties in 1985, 86, 1980 general elections, our independence away. The more we look at that, the more we realize that we actually have a lot more in common together than that which sets us apart. And the more political arrangements are just counted, I think we're now about 9, and all of them are very loud names and loud voices, whatever their merits. I think those are not sustainable. I believe that what is urgently required is not new formations, but what is urgently required is leadership. And the leadership may be, an emergence of sets of ideas and thoughts and the voice from any of the existing organizations, or could be anybody else, but it's really about leadership that this country requires. And that leadership could even come from any guys, can you imagine? But we need leadership to bring us together, to wake us up, rather than new political organizations. But in terms of my friends, the Impugas, we wish them a good luck. And all those new political organizations, we wish them well. I still want to hold political parties and organizations to be rooted around values and foundations and ideology. And the foundation that UPC was built on, I don't know how many people are going to challenge them in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno and Mr. Kazoba Charles. Thank you so much for watching. Muhwezi Rogers, you're watching from Barara. Thank you so much for watching. You said this brought me agree what General Muhoozi told Kenyans, that he can overthrow Kenyan government within less than a week. If Kenyan government persists that they don't know how Dr. Besigye was abducted from Kenya. A good joke. There is Jeremiah Mchibi. Thank you so much for watching. Angela Namirembe, Mwesige Joram, Kien Jojo. You're watching. Thank you so much from the entire team. We applaud you and really thank you for watching us from the time we started up to right now. It's time we end this particular conversation. But just a quick reminder, tomorrow Dr. Besigye will be arraigned in the General Court Martial for the second time, and of course he is undergoing some charges right there in the General Court Martial tomorrow in Makindye. We shall be there to keep you updated on some of those issues and more. From the entire team, I will see you again tomorrow, same time, same station. Good night, and God bless Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.